In this video, I'm going to show you how I like to use sketching boards or drawing boards, whatever you want to call them, to enhance my sketching experience outside. I'll talk about supplies and different setups and add-ons, and we're just gonna geek out for a while about fun little art supplies. I hope you enjoy. How cute is this? This little thing sticking up off the top of my sketchbook is a drawing board or a sketching board or a plein air sketching. Honestly, I don't know what it's called, so I actually asked my Instagram what people call this, and I got a huge variety of responses. So I'm gonna list all of the responses on the screen so you can just decide for yourself. But more often than not, I've seen it called a sketchboard or a drawing board. And there are other types of drawing boards out there as well for like large scale drawings. So I think you have to look at it in context to urban sketching or plein air. This is kind of a drawing board or sketchboard that people would use. Anyways, as you can see, it's secured to my sketchbook. And that is because it has a little indent or cutout on it. So it fits kind of next to the spine here. I'll show you everything in the video today. And in this case, my palette is attached with magnets. I'm going to share different types of boards and palettes and clip-ons and like all the little things that you could do with it and the different designs I've seen out there. So today is kind of a brain dump about everything I know about these and why I use them, what they're useful for. But I hope that in the end you find a bit of inspiration, and if you decide to make your own, I would love to see your setup. So please like tag me on social media or come to my Discord and show us because I love seeing stuff like this. All right, let's jump into the video. First, I'm going to go through some of the DIY options, especially what I've used if you want to try to make your own sketchboard. And here on my desk, I have this stuff called corrugated plastic, like cardboard, except it's plastic. It's extremely lightweight. It's really, really rigid. And I think you can get it in different thicknesses and you can easily cut it with scissors or a blade. So you can customize the shape to basically anything you need. I've used it for quite a long time, just trying different setups and different shapes. But the only thing is that it can bend, and once one of the areas bends, it is permanently bent. It doesn't have the same rigidity. So maybe you can experiment with some thicker versions, but it's okay. And then I've also used Foamcore, which has a variety of purposes, and this one in particular I bought a long time ago for backing of some of my paintings, and I just had a few extra sheets of it. And this is basically extremely rigid foam surrounded by some kind of paper material. I like it because it's extremely rigid, it's very sturdy, and extremely lightweight as well. So it's awesome for portability. However, because it has a paper coating, you can run into issues if you accidentally get it wet, which is going to be very common if you're using water media. And it also, again, will bend if you're not careful, and then once it's bent, it's done. You can't really get the same rigidity back. So you got to be careful if you're going to make these sketchboards out of materials like these. Yes, you can cut them at home with scissors, and they're extremely portable and lightweight, but they have their limitations. There are loads of different designs online. You can just spend a whole afternoon or more looking at cool designs, and maybe you can just get inspired to make your own based on these. But quite a few of them are decently priced, and for years, so many of you have been sending me messages and emails about this brand called JustGoSketching, and they make all sorts of cool stuff. But in particular, I was interested in their mini sketching companion. And because I pretty much only use this type of thing with my smaller sketchbooks, I knew I wanted the baby one, the small one. I went with this one and customized the colors to what I wanted, and it arrived in like 3 or 4 days. And by the way, I am not sponsored or affiliated with them in any way. I don't even think they know who I am. But I want to show you what comes with it and how I'm using it. The reason I chose these colors is so that it's very easy to find in case I'm painting outside and I drop it on the ground. It's just helpful to have brightly colored supplies so that I don't lose them as often. They do sell all sorts of different kits and add-ons, but I bought the basic one. So you get the board, you get an elastic that is also like a pen or brush holder, and you get a clip-on water cup. The board is made of very rigid, compressed wood of some kind, and even if I tried really hard, I couldn't bend it, so that was a bonus. And it's covered in this textured faux leather material, which kind of helps with the grip. I did notice this material is glued down pretty well, except in the corners it can easily get pulled up if you are like putting clip-on things on and off all the time. So I used some super glue to put it back on and it's been fine ever since. Just something to keep in mind. Now when it comes to palettes, I could seriously spend hours talking about this, but I'm going to try to rein it in and stick with only the palettes that I would consider using in a small setup like this. These 4 palettes are the contenders. I'm sure you recognize some of these, and there's versions of these all over the internet. This one is very similar to a famous palette called the Artist Toolkit, which you can find in all sorts of different configurations. This is a different brand, but it has a similar design where it has a magnetic side with small magnetic watercolor pans that are very shallow. And on the other side, there's just a flat mixing space. So there's no edge to the mixing space. And that's actually one of the reasons I stopped using it, because I prefer to have a lip or an edge on the end of my mixing space so that when I'm mixing large amount of water or washes, it doesn't just fall off of the edge. So it's definitely a personal thing, and I'm sure that there's a version of this out there that has like a lip on it. So I don't use it very often, but I wanted to show you that it's a good option for the small portable type of setup, especially because it's metal, which means it sticks to magnets. And then we have a very cheap DIY version of kind of like the classic Altoid tin mini palette. This is just like a mint tin, and you can buy these in bulk. And all I do is super glue magnets to the back of my watercolor pans, and they stay inside. The downside is that if the magnets fall off, which a couple of mine have, the pens are loose, and the inside of the lid is metal, and that's not really nice to mix on. But I have used these before outside and they were fine. And that actually led me to discover this palette, which I haven't used yet. I just bought it. It's by a brand named Just Add Water, and I think they make all different types and different sizes. But the cool thing about this is that they have 3D printed an insert that holds watercolor, and they put a vinyl seal on the lid so that you can mix on a white space. So it kind of fixed my problems. And then, of course, we have my favorite, the Portable Painter Micro. I mean, I've talked about this so much over the years. I have so many videos about this. It's the small micro version of my larger Portable Painter Classic that you see in tons of my videos. But these palettes are amazing because they're all self-contained. So not only do you get your watercolor pans and your mixing space, but you also get your little water dish. So it's kind of the best of everything. The downside is that it's the only one that isn't metal, so it doesn't stick to the magnets on the sketchboard, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Next, let's talk about all the fun little clip-on gadgets you can use with these types of sketch kits. Again, this is going to be a very personal thing because it depends on what you need. Do you need clip-on brush holders or cups, or like there's so many different things out there that you can get. I'll show you some of the things that I've used, and I've kind of collected these over the years randomly in bits and pieces. And the fun thing is now whenever I want to customize a kit, I have a little collection that I can pull from. Probably the most useful clips I have are the magnetic clips, which I think people use on the refrigerator, so you can probably find them in like a home goods store. or alligator clips, which are just useful in general, and then these brush holder or pen clips, which you can get in different sizes. And that reminds me, one other thing that comes with the Just Go Sketching kit are these drawing board clips, which I will touch on a little bit more later when we get into the sketchbooks, because, yeah, I just have to show you what they do. One of the most useful things I've found to attach things to my sketch kits are Velcro strips or sticker Velcro. And I usually buy the one that's branded as industrial Velcro because that means it is super strong. I've also used all sorts of different command strips, and these are great because they're super easy to take on and off, and they usually come in multi-packs, which means you can kind of play around with it till you find the right fit and the right thing that you need. Back in the day when I was oil painting, I found these little clip-on medium cups. So you'd usually put linseed oil or something in one of these and put it on the edge of your setup. And I've also found they're great for water because they seal when they're closed. There's also versions of that are open, so they don't have lids. And as I showed you earlier, the Just Go Sketching kit comes with one of them, which is cool. And I recently found out that there are these little sticker magnets by 3M, and maybe other companies make them as well. These actually came with my Just Add Water palette, which I showed you earlier. So the second I saw these, I realized this is my solution for my Portable Painter Micro. Despite how slim these magnets are, they are incredibly strong. So I popped them on the back of my Portable Painter Micro, and imagine how pleasantly surprised I was when it stuck very snugly to the magnet strips. Even when I flipped it upside down and shook it, it didn't fall off. So this is definitely a game changer for me. Originally, my plan was to use Velcro and just add a strip of that next to the magnet strips. But this is so much easier. I've used command strips and Velcro on the back of these, and they work great. But the problem is Velcro is too thick to be able to close the portable painter when it's all folded up. However, these little magnets are super skinny and I'm able to close it all up and it fits perfectly. Now, of course, there are so many different types of magnet strips and tapes and like add-ons that you could buy in addition to all of this. And that's kind of the beauty of it. You can customize it completely to what you need. The options are endless, and again, that's why I love seeing so many different setups. It's really fun to see what people come up with. When it comes to sketchbooks, there are two main things I consider. First of all, the type of cover, soft cover versus hard cover, and the size of the sketchbook. First, let me talk about the soft cover thing. I actually find it's much easier to use these types of drawing boards or sketchboards with a hardcover sketchbook because when you use a soft cover sketchbook, it's a little bit trickier to attach to. When you slide the sketchboard onto the sketchbook, you're opening it up to the cover. The covers themselves are so thin and kind of flimsy. When you open your sketchbook to draw, the back of the drawing board is held in only by a thin sliver of material. It's not super secure. So you definitely have to use some kind of drawing clip or something to make sure it stays in place. That means that the whole thing gets a little more cumbersome the more clips you add. And in a second, I'll show you with the hardcovers, it's so much easier. That said, some of my favorite sketchbooks have soft covers, so I am more than willing to do this to add more clips and go the extra mile to make sure it's all secure. Oh, and quick note, I have used this with my favorite Strathmore sketchbooks, which are like a paper cover. That's probably the most flimsy cover I've ever used. It's so easy to rip it or get it wet and destroy it. And I'm really, really careful when I use these with a sketchboard. I have accidentally ripped a couple of them by putting things on or taking them off too quickly and tearing it. So yeah, just be careful with your soft covers. So most hardcover sketchbooks come with a little elastic attached to one of the sides so that you can secure the pages on a windy day or something like that. And the beauty of that is all you have to do is wrap it around the paper. The tension that creates will hold the drawing board in place. So you really only need to put the clip on one side, and even then you kind of don't need to. It's still pretty secure without clipping the other side. I think this probably works best with smaller sketchbooks because it creates a little bit more tension there, but it's something to consider. You can see that the sketchboard doesn't really go down into the sketchbook very much because I guess they're just trying to reduce materials to keep it portable. However, when I made my own, I actually made my indent a little bit longer so that the slabs on the side would go deeper into the sketchbook and make the whole thing a little bit more secure. The other main thing to consider is size. And as you can see, I bought the smallest sketchboard, but there are bigger ones out there. But for my purposes, I typically only use these sketchboards when I'm standing and sketching or being very, very portable. And in doing so, I'm already traveling very lightly. Like maybe I'm urban sketching or I'm on vacation or something, and I have very minimal supplies. So I don't want to have a giant drawing board with a big sketchbook in my hand because that really fatigues my wrist and my arm. So I prefer to go with the smaller version of everything. This is an A5 sketchbook, which is the biggest size I would ever use with one of these. Again, that's totally personal. I've seen people use A4 size drawing boards with A4 sketchbooks. But I guess my personal thinking is that if I'm painting bigger than this, I'm going to want a bigger palette, more mixing space. I probably will just end up using my push-od box or something like that instead of this little portable setup. While filming this video, I was super curious about how it would feel to use this board with all of my variety of sizes and shapes of sketchbook. And I don't have a lot of portrait sketchbooks. This one is a newer one. I think I got this one in France, and I technically have not started it yet. But when I had the drawing board on it, the proportions and the weight distribution or whatever was wonderful. I think I'm really going to enjoy using this size portrait sketchbook with this little drawing board, especially if I have my Portable Painter Micro, because then everything is right there. It's all ready to go. It's stable, and I'll be able to paint across the page. And yeah, it'll be really fun. Especially when I'm doing urban sketching or drawing buildings, I guess. I like using a more vertical page layout. So this is probably going to end up being one that I use a lot in when I travel or cities or yeah, that kind of thing. And the best part is that my new little pocket fountain pen fits perfectly at the top of the drawing board with the clip on. Really cute, really portable little compact setup. I'm excited to use this. Okay, so remember earlier when I was showing you some of my DIY versions of this thing? I am showing you my original setup, which was so simple. It didn't even have any cutouts or anything. It was literally just the corrugated plastic clipped to the back cover of a hardback sketchbook, because again the support is there. And I velcroed my Portable Painter Micro to the plastic. And then I had a little bit of room to do another clip on if I wanted to, or the whole point of this video is to just get you thinking about different options that you have. And you can do it on a very, very tight budget. You don't have to go out and spend money on like the pre-made things. I think the most important thing is first figuring out what you need. What kind of painter are you? What kind of sketcher are you? Do you need lots of materials or only the absolute minimal? And maybe get a feel for using those materials outside and then start thinking about what an ideal setup or kit would be. What would it look like? I think it's so easy to watch videos like this and think, oh, I need that. And if I have that, I'll be a better artist. Or if I have that, I'll go out more and I'll paint outside more. And maybe that's true for some people, but I think for the majority of us, it's more important to build a healthy habit first and then find items, find products that make your life easier. Let me now show you my ideal setup. First of all, I want to insert the drawing board so that it is as far down as it will go because that gives me the most amount of stability. From there, I'll decide how secure it is, how much more reinforcement do I need. Once I put the elastic band around the pages, it's usually pretty good, but having at least one drawing board clip won't hurt. The only thing is that sometimes those get in the way of my painting or my sketch, depending on how far to the edge I'm painting. So maybe it's something you have to move while you paint, or, just be really careful until you can get the first layer on and then add the drawing board clip. I found that using the elastic band was a little bit easier at the top edge because I could slide the pens or the brushes into the loops, and that slides right underneath the lid of my Portable Painter Micro. So there's a little bit of space there where these can sit underneath, which is perfect. And that's just for convenience, like when I'm switching between different items really quick and I don't want to be digging through my bag each time. But for the most part, I'm trying not to overload the sketchboard with stuff because the more you do that, the heavier and more cumbersome it gets. You can actually fit quite a lot in those loops, so yeah, you could use a lot of materials on there. Let's say for some reason I don't have my Portable Painter Micro and I'm using one of the really cheap metal palettes. What I find with those is that there's not enough mixing space, so I realized putting two side by side gives me way more space, and I can use some vinyl stickers on the inside of the palette to make a much more pleasant mixing space. I actually got these vinyl cutouts from the Just Add Water palette. When I ordered that, I asked for some extras. You could also just buy like vinyl sticker paper, or maybe you know how to coat metal with like ceramic coating, or I don't know. Could get creative with that. But having all that extra mixing space is awesome. I also tried the Folio palette on here to see how that would work, and unfortunately, the design that I have at least, the lid opens up and raises the bottom of it up off the surface so that it doesn't sit like snugly on the magnets. I don't know if all of them do that, but it was really annoying, so I couldn't really get it to sit securely. Therefore, the mixing tray had to kind of lay up over the top of the board and fall back slightly, and it just felt really flimsy. But then I realized the watercolor pans themselves are magnetic, so I could just take those out and put them on the drawing board. And yes, this would be very messy, but it's also like the most absolute minimal materials that you could use in this setup. I'm sure that there are bigger, like full pan size out there that you could, I don't know, there's probably all sorts of designs. But this was kind of a cool idea, and I may experiment with this when I'm trying to be ultra light in the future, because sometimes I just do that, like when I go hiking. Definitely not as elegant as the portable painter, but it could work. Okay, you're ready to go outside with your new sketchboard, right? One thing that I find helps whenever I'm testing new supplies is just to do something very casual around the house. Maybe sketch some plants outside, something pretty I see down the street. Don't go too far, just kind of test things out. In order to make the experience a little more comfortable, here are some ideas for some companion pieces. Do you have to use these? No, but they make things a little more comfortable. First up is having quick and easy access to all of your sketch supplies that don't fit on the drawing board, especially if you are like me and would rather be a little more minimal with it. So this could be anything from a shoulder bag to a purse to all sorts of fancy art kits out there. I use the Etcher Nano for this because it fits all my favorite supplies. The whole kit fits inside it, and I can quickly swing it from one side to the other depending on what I need to grab, and it's just really easy. I also sometimes use a bum bag because they're just very portable and lightweight, and it keeps weight off my shoulders. And if you get a big enough one, you can fit all of your supplies, including a small sketchbook and the small drawing board like I have. So it's extremely comfortable and easy to get. It's especially great for urban sketching when you're doing errands or traveling because it's so compact and you have quick access to it wherever you are. Next is a water bottle, and I like to have one on a leash because it's just easier to keep track of and to have with me, especially if I'm moving around a lot. So I can either drink it or I can use it to paint with. And then, of course, some kind of folding chair or portable stool is always nice because standing for too long really hurts my hips. In fact, sitting with a drawing board or sketchboard is ideal and very comfortable, and I highly recommend it, especially if you're new to all this. I also see a lot of people using bigger drawing boards when they're sitting down, so you have a little more stability and your wrist or your arm doesn't get tired. So what do you think? What is your favorite version of the drawing or sketchboard? What kind of setup are you leaning towards? Let me know your thoughts. I'm so curious about this kind of thing. Someday I'm going to go to one of those big urban sketcher conventions where I get to see like hundreds of different artists and their setups, and I'm gonna geek out hard about that. Some of the artists I follow go to those types of events, and I love when they share videos about everybody's setups. I honestly think that making kits and setups and like tinkering with this kind of thing is a hobby in itself. You can be an artist and you can enjoy sketching and painting, but you can also love doing this just as much. And I think the beauty is when they combine and you finally perfect your setup and you go out and use it. And then in 2 months, you want to change something and you start all over again. If you want to support my channel for free, just give the video a like, drop a comment. It's easy and it really helps. So thanks everyone, and I'll see you again next time. Take care. Oh, hello. Are you here to look at? Oh, hello.